6:03 p.m. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have public participation. There is none at this time. Yes, let the record reflect that Mrs. Brown and Mr. Getwood are present. Public participation, there is none at this time. We will go down to staff report. Dr. Porter.
Thank you, President Barty. Board members, a lot is going on in our district, and we are excited. We're back, thank goodness, and I think our seniors are preparing for prom on May the 7th. That was one day before Mother's Day, so I think they'll party all day Saturday and compliment their mothers on Sunday, so we're proud of that. And then on the 27th, we'll have the big finale, which is the high school graduation. This will be the first, after 2 years, of what we might call a regular graduation, a traditional graduation, which will be at the Montaigne Center at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, May 27th, is on a Friday, so I'm sure they're going to party because Memorial Day is that Monday. Memorial Day is that Monday, so I'm sure they'll have a good time Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday as well. So we're looking forward to that. I'll stop now, and Mr. Barty will announce the results of a grievance.
Consider level 4 grievance of employee Mr. Donald Boulay.
Mr. President, I move that the board uphold the level 3 decision of the superintendent of schools in the grievance of employee Donald Boulay.
Thank you.
As we move on, right now we are always proud to introduce students in the Port Arthur Independent School District that, just excel. And I will say this, most all of our students, we have a couple of challenges, but the majority of our students are wonderful, smart, engaged, want to learn, eager to learn, and want a great life. And every so often we want to bring those students to you so you can see that we have great students in the Port Arthur Independent School District. They're ours. We're proud of them. They do well. And you don't hear about the good things. You only hear about the knuckleheads sometimes. So we want to bring forth the wonderful kids, the wonderful students that we have. And you know what? They are good. They really are, because they're ours. And we put time into them. We invest in them. And anything they need, they want, we try to get it. So tonight we're going to hear from Mr. Johnson, and he's going to come and tell us what they've done recently. He's going to introduce the individuals that he has with him. Mr. Johnson, please come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Portery, board members. Before I introduce Chief Smith, who's the program director, I want to thank Dr. Porter and the board for giving us all the tools we need to be successful. And that's pretty much it right there, because without you guys, we wouldn't have made it this far right here. Thank you for all the support you've given us and all the material to make it happen. So right now, I want to introduce Chief Vandy Smith. He's the welding instructor. Chief Smith. And
how y'all doing today? Mr. Vandy Smith, I want to bring my students on up here with me. They did a tremendous job this year on the Houston Rodeo Show program. All these students here, they actually going to graduate with their NCCR certification. They'll be testing out for their actual welding certification hopefully next week. So they'll be testing out for that, and they also dual enrolled through Lamont State Port Arthur. And they'll graduate with their certificate from there on May 13th at 5:30.
That's right.
What I'm gonna do is what we did. I know a few people may have seen the project that we presented. Principal Aliva, Dr. Aliva, and Mr. Johnson, they all traveled with us. We all went to the Houston Rodeo Show. Displayed, the students actually had to do a presentation for the judges. So what they want to do here is show the same slideshow. A couple of the students are going to talk about the steps we went through to get it accomplished. We actually wound up finishing 7 out of 20. We was the only school outside of the Houston area, besides the school in Corpus Christi that was actually in it. So, but we did finish 7th out of 20. They did really good. So, so what he gonna do is tell a little bit about what's going on.
How y'all doing today? My name is Alejandro Valencia, and this school year we got the chance to work on a project for the Houston Rodeo Show, and it was a great experience because we also learned how to weld, we learned how to measure, and we learned how to do a bunch of stuff. But the funnest part about it was getting to know my friends here, getting to know them better, and helping each other out with the things that we didn't know. And also the support on the way to the rodeo show and throughout the whole event. I mean, it was a very fun experience this school year, and I had a blast. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of the work that we had done already.
Good afternoon. My name is Edwin Flores. We're very proud of this achievement we've gotten, and last year we started the same. We started a project that was similar to this one. We couldn't finish it out because of all the challenges we faced with COVID, the freezes. As you can see in the first picture, we didn't really get that far. And this year we tried to make a change, and we had challenges, but we still went on through with them, and we completed it. We did way better than last year. I didn't think we were gonna get this far as a team, but we achieved it. I'll go to the next slide. Okay. We learned a lot of new things. Like we always learn in the welding class, but this brought more in-work experience to us. We did some stuff we would never do in a class. Like we did some overhead welding that we need a lot of experience for that. I learned a lot from cutting this. We had a lot of challenges that we didn't know most of this stuff, but Chief Smith helped us out. We had to sometimes search up videos, ask for help, but that's what this is all about, learning. Some of the most difficult stuff was lighting. Since we're in a welding program, we really don't learn about electrical stuff. This was this was the hardest thing that we did in the project. But we had some help from Chief Smith and some of our mentors that were there to help us as well. This is how the project turned out. I'm very proud of us. We did it in 5 months. We finished it way faster than what we thought we would finish it. And we had some great leadership to help us out with it.
So that was basically a few pictures of the project. Some of the students, like you said, a lot of teamwork with these guys. It was more than just these guys. It was actually seniors and 11th graders. But the few we brought in with us for the project and everything. So I want to thank y'all for allowing us to come in and show y'all and do this presentation.
At this time, we have any questions about the trustees? Let's go. We're going to be that's Ms. Brown, Ms. Ambrose, then Mr. Getwood, and then Mr. Guillory.
Is this barbecue pit at the Cape building now?
Yes, ma'am. It's actually in the back of the, inside of my gated area behind the welding shop. And it works really good. So.
I mind if I go in and look at it and see?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Definitely, definitely.
Well, first, I'd just like to congratulate you on job well done. But I have a question. How was the decision made that what type of project you
So
would?
S&B is the company that's in charge of ICC, which is Industrial Craft Competition. This the third year only for the Houston Rodeo Show. This is the biggest push now. As far as, FFA is the biggest thing usually, but now they're pushing toward the CTE at the rodeo show. So every school did the same thing. They give us the blueprints, teach the kids how to follow the blueprints, how to do everything. So every student, every school had to do the same exact by the book project. Yes, ma'am.
Well, congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
Mr. Getwood, Mr. Guillory, then Mr. Lofton.
I just wanted to say congratulations. You all did a phenomenal job. You can just a round of applause. I remember coming to the cake building when I first saw the barbecue pit in works. And one thing that I did here, but I want to reiterate, everything that you see here was built from scratch, from the bottom all the way up, even to what the pit is sitting on. And the way they explained it to me when I first asked how they put it together, they got everything in these long, big pieces of metal, and they cut it all down to make exactly what you see. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt, as soon as you all were going to the Houston Rodeo, that you were going to place, because the pit obviously looked amazing, but it had a story behind it. And so just keep this same motivation that you used to build this barbecue pit, and you can build up this city. So you got it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Guillory.
Again, congratulations on the job well done. The class, we had an opportunity to tour while you guys were in there. The question I have is, what is the maximum number of students that you allow at any given time to participate in your program?
So I have 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So it's all separated like that. 16 spots, usually. Sometimes we have about 18. But 16 seats, so I have 16 welding booths and other stuff they can do in there. But 16 is usually where we try to cap it off, but it's hard.
So after this, these kids will be knocking down your door trying to get in the program just to make it to the Houston Rodeo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now look, I got a case of ribs. Anytime you feel, like we want to just test the product to see if it does what you designed it to do, I'll be more than willing to provide us, some sample for the board and those that want to participate.
Yes, sir. And one thing I want to add, because it was a great experience, not only for the students, but S&B, the company that really headed it up. They have a program where actually 3 of the students applied for, and I think all 3 got it. But they'll go to Baytown. They have their own warehouse where they teach pipe fitting and all that. So those students, they literally start off at $18 an hour, go into class. Midway, they go to $20. Then upon graduation, they go to $22 an hour. So they'll do work in the plants. So she hit me up today and was telling me that she's pretty sure all 3 of the guys that applied should be getting the job. So that's a good thing. That's something they do now. They just started, really got it in the works. They just have to drive and get to Baytown, but it's all free. They don't have to pay for anything, and they can get all that experience and get paid, go to the plants on the job sites.
Good job.
So,
Mr. Lofton.
First, I want to say congratulations. I do know a couple of the young fellas. Been knowing them since they were babies, and proud to see them doing something like this. Brings joy to my heart. That's what I want to know as far as job placement. Once they get that certification, are we going to reach out to our local businesses who say that we don't have kids to put in the workforce? But I'm looking at 6 of them right now that's ready to go make some money. So I want to know, are we going to reach out to those companies and say, hey, we got a welding class full of certified welders, instead of them bringing these buses in with welders, have our kids with these jobs?
yes, sir. Two of my students are Motiva mentorees. One won the scholarship, Sean Senegal.
Yeah, I know, Sean.
So,
Yeah.
but we also do, a couple of y'all may remember a couple of years ago, Gulf Copper was signing students straight out of high school to work. The guy, Mr. Dijon, who used to be at Gulf Copper, has his own thing. Me and him been communicating. He's trying to do the same thing at his new company, hiring students right out of high school, straight into work with the welding side also. So, and internal industry is another one that she's trying to get kids straight out of graduation. And
Well, Sean owed me some money for eating at my house. Great. That's why I'm trying to get him a job.
A few questions I would like to ask. I know that's your baby, that pit, it looks good. And I'm just thinking, my mind just turned. could we possibly auction that off and the proceeds go back into the program?
We could, we actually had that discussion today. It can be, like I say, every school was given $30,000 worth of material to build this from all the various plants, S&B, all this was donated. The only thing I had to have was my own welding rods and any equipment I didn't have, like last year they gave me to keep for the school district. So I keep any equipment, big machines that I didn't have, they gave me. It's ours as long as we're doing the project.
Right.
Next year we'll be doing the project again. Just so happened they're cutting it back to 10. We was already told by the vice president that we definitely in that 10. So they're only doing 10 schools this year for next year. I already know it's going to be another barbecue style, but a lot different. But it'll be a barbecue style pit. But yes, to answer your question, we could auction it off. Did have a couple of conversations with Mr. Johnson about setting it up, maybe fencing it in for when they do football and stuff over there or Pop Warner, and people could use it.
Right.
Because it's designed to be sprayed out and drained. It's all designed to be clean without having to move it or anything.
Right.
So we have had that discussion.
That was just something that was running through my head, and I had to ask that question. I definitely saw the upcoming of this project, and guys, I can tell you one thing, y'all did an awesome job on it. One thing I can tell you, keep pushing, keep your heads on straight, man. If you can build something like that from scratch, you can do a lot with your future in that industry. So, hey, keep doing what you're doing. I applaud you. I couldn't tell you what to cut the measurements if you paid me to, but you guys know it. And you have some people that's behind you, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Fonda, Dr. Oliva. Y'all have a great thing that's going over there, and if possible, we can help to do anything to further that program. Just let us know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we do have Mr. Thompson, Luther Thompson, who is working hard at trying to find our kids. You see kids here now, and they're doing a great job. Mr. Thompson is the coordinator of student recovery. And as you know, since Harvey, we have lost several children. And we are trying to find them. We need to find them, and there is such thing as a child find, that we have to move out and look for children. So Mr. Thompson's been charged with trying to, for lack of a better term, knock on doors, which he has done, and trying to figure out where our kids are. It's amazing how when they leave here, we have ways to look for them through the TSDS system, but they're not there either. So, that's a way we can see when they've registered at another district, but it seems like they just disappear. So let's see what Mr. Thompson's going to tell us about his luck or his findings.
Well, good evening on this beautiful, fine evening to all of our board members and the executive team. I'm grateful to be here, and I have good news. So, we are trying to recover a lot of our students, and it is a daunting task, Dr. Portery. What I have for you is the slogan that I've developed to implement the program. It's called Welcome to Success. And then in our family, we have a motto that says, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So a lot of our kids have started school, but a lot of them have not finished, and we want to try to recapture those I hate to use the word recapture. We want to find those kids and make sure that they can get their diplomas. I have a quote here from Wilbur Reedu, who was an ex-convict who went on to receive many awards for journalism. He says, crime is a social problem. And in light of what we've heard here in Port Arthur, and education is the only real deterrent. Look at all your truants and dropouts, a failure of the educational system. Look at your truancy problem and you're looking at your future prisoners, put your money there. So we know that, as you know from recent articles about things that have happened with some of our kids, and then to these fine gentlemen that were here and the fine job that they've done. I didn't come up with, but I did research and looked at and found the 15 strategies to prevent dropouts. There's some basic core strategies, mentoring and tutoring, which is mentoring, you all know, is a one-on-one caring sort of a relationship between a mentor and a mentee. And then tutoring is also a one-to-one activity, which we provide. Now, these 15 strategies have been approved by the National Education Agency, and they've been developed by the National Dropout Prevention Center at the University of Clemson. Fortunately for us, our district implements every one of these. A lot of these interventions are standalone, or they can be used all together. They're synergistic. They kind of cross over with each other. So we have been fortunate that we have all of these things that are going on. Service learning, alternative schooling. Now, there was talk with Dr. Portery and some of the executive team members about us bringing back a night school component. I think that's sorely needed. I think that would help us with some of our social problems with kids who are working. What we discovered was that a lot of kids are working and can't afford to come back to school. It would cost them money. So if we could provide that avenue for them or an option for them, that would surely help us a lot. And then the after-school opportunities, Dr. Oliva provides all of that for students on a daily basis. Professional development, active learning, family engagement, early literacy. As you know, the earlier we can get them, the foundation is set, then we can prevent dropouts. Research has shown that if we can catch them early, then that will prevent them from dropping out later. We provide all of those kinds of things. Systemic renewal, our 5-year plan that we've developed here in the district. Educational technology. Our technology team is one of the best in the state. Mr. Jackson and his crew provide any assistance that we need, that I've needed. They've done an outstanding job. Also, while I'm on that vein, the counselors at the high school who provided me with the non-graduate list, the registrar's office, and I hate to start calling names, but Mrs. Ledette and Mr. Butler and Mrs. Gonzalez have provided me with the no-show list. Mr. Jackson's crew, once again, the attendance office at the high school, fantastic. We've developed relationships where they're notifying me of kids who are on the verge of dropping out. They provide a list to me of kids who are old and don't want to come back because they don't meet the criteria for graduation. So we're talking to those kids. We've made home visits, and that's scary sometimes, but you know, with the pandemic as it's still going on and crime thing, that, you know, we kind of pick and choose who we need to go and see or try to recover. And of course, the school community collaboration is an important part of making sure that the kids don't drop out. There's an old saying, you've all heard it before, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we can prevent the dropouts, then there'll be no need for me to have to go out and recover. Yes, I can put myself out of a job, but I think that getting them and the impact that they have on society would be all for the better. If we can prevent dropouts, then we can improve lives, and in some instances save lives, and we can increase our bottom line at the same time. And I went through that with you, and then finally, you'll see this graph here. In August, we started out with a projection of 1218, and then there was a precipitous drop going into September, which is when our no-show list came out. We went down to 1123. We started getting the no-show list. I started focusing on non-grads from last year to try to put them in the program. We went up a little bit in October, and you'll see a bigger jump going into November. And then a steady increase all the way through January, and then up to February, and then up to March. And as of April 21st, last week, we were back to what the projection was. So we're looking at an increase of about 95 students now. I don't know how many I'm responsible for, the registrar's office or the attendance office, but we've all been working in conjunction to try to make sure that that happens. Right now, we did get one student to actually complete his graduation requirements. So he received a diploma. We have 3 students that are in the JAG program, which is another thing that we talked about, Jobs Across America for American Graduates. It's being run out of Beaumont, Region 5 right now. They provide training and preparation for the high school equivalency test and also for the GED. We have 12 students that are on the APEX program. They're pending completing their requirements for graduation, which will help us with our bottom line as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Trustees, do you have any questions at this time? Mr. Guillory?
Is there anything else that you would need to assist you in recovery, or is there anything that the community can do to assist you in this process?
Well, you know, I jokingly talked to Dr. Putery about a secretary or an assistant, you know, that would help a little bit. I'm a one-man gang right now. And so without a budget, we can do better. And the community has been just, you know, I get help from everybody. I run into kids and parents all the time. You know, and, oh, my son's not doing this or my daughter's not doing that. And I give them a card and say, hey, call me. If we can get them back into a program, then we're all for it. But we don't have a lot as much to offer as we should. I think the night school component would be a big help for us. And of course, there was talk about bringing the JAG program back this way as well.
Then Mr. Gilwood, then Ms. Ambrose, then Mr. Lofton.
Okay. My question is, do you use surveys? Have you surveyed any of the students that you have recovered back?
I have them fill out a form at the beginning to tell why they dropped out, okay. What the reason was for them dropping out. Some of them, females or males, have had children. Some of them had to drop out because they needed to work for their families. Some were too old. They were 19 and they were going to turn 20 at the beginning of the year, and you know, they felt like it wasn't worth them staying in school. Well, we all know that's not true, but for the most part, they do a survey at the beginning.
Ms. Ambrose.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Thompson. Just a couple of questions. At the very top of your presentation, you mentioned the options in terms of what we are trying to offer, and one of them was night school. You said that you found that most can't afford to come back to the traditional daytime schooling. Did I understand you to say that?
Yes, ma'am.
Why? What happened? I mean, is it because they're having to work because of the pandemic, and there's just no way possible, there's no resources available for them to be able to come back to day school? And do we just lose them because they can't afford to?
Yes, ma'am, all of the above. I've found that some kids, or young adults now, they can't afford to come back because that means they'll have to give up their job, and they can't afford to give up their jobs. Some of them are taking care of families. They're supporting their parents and their children and their siblings. So that gives them a choice between either I'm going to come back and finish up these 5 or 6 credits, or I'm going to make this money, which is not really money as we know it, but they need to do that in order to keep roofs over their heads.
Okay. The second question, this very last slide that you've shown us, the enrollment school year. Now, these numbers, are they indicative of the number of students that we've lost?
No, these are the number of students that are on campus now, according to the registrar's office. And so at the beginning.
Okay, I misunderstood you. Okay,
Right.
all right.
Now,
Thank you
there's
very much.
another list that shows you the ADA, which is the average daily attendance and so forth. But I don't have that slide.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, more or less, the average daily enrollment, or normally what we usually get to.
This is just monthly.
Okay.
What the increases were per month. We'd get a few kids in, and then, some would drop out. It's a fluid situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Lofton?
What's going on, Mr. Thompson?
Brother Lofton.
How much, what is the city of Port Arthur doing to help us with this? Have we reached out to the city of Port Arthur to help us get our kids? Because a lot of our kids are working at McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell, because they need to support their families. It seems like we should have some type of city daycare or something for people who can have their kids, even adults, because a lot of our kids are raising parents that has disabilities, because the city's not providing them with nowhere to put them. So I wonder if it's something that we can do and reach out to our city people to have them help us with these kids that have to start being adults at 16 years old, when they should be enjoying school and getting ready for prom, but not and you can't fault the kids. You have to fault this community and this society that say, hey, you got to get out here and go work because we got a light bill due. So I think we should try to reach out to our city to kind of help us out with helping these kids.
I'm in total agreement. Life happens. And so if there was something that we could do to work in collaboration with the city, I'm all for it. Anything that I can do to get a diploma in a student's or young adult's hands is what my credo is right now. That's the task that I've been assigned, and so, I've been doing this for 30-something years, and to be able to try to actually put a diploma in somebody's hand, it's priceless.
And out of the kids that you're finding, to get back in school, about what percentage of them are homeless? Because when they cleared that area out the other day by Old Howard's, we had a lot of homeless kids standing over there.
Wow. I didn't know that. But
yes.
I've run into some addresses where they were on the student summary, but nobody's there. Either the house is empty or nobody's answering. But I've not run into any homeless yet.
Yeah, Mr. Thompson, I can honestly say that I'm not going to say I know you're the man for this job. And I'm going to say that because I've seen what you've done in the past. Just, you and your wife, how y'all groomed me to be the man that I am. And I'm going to say y'all groomed me to be the man because she was my fourth grade teacher who taught me how to stand up for myself, don't let nobody bully me or use me. And then you taught me how to look a man in the eye when I'm talking to him. And to this day, I've used that till now. I look a man in the eye when I'm talking to him directly in his eyes. And that's something that I've learned from both of you all. But I know that you're the man for this job. If you can teach a young kid to do something and it sticks with him for years, I know that you can be the man to go out there and get those kids, bring them back and get them into the program. So with that being said, job well done on the ones that you have touched and brought back into the program to get their diplomas. So like I said, anything that we can do to help further you and further your process, just let us know.
Well, I am truly grateful and humbled by your words, Mr. Barty, as having mentioned that I was your 5th grade teacher. It does me, I'm as our preacher would say, I'm peacock proud to be standing here looking at you, knowing that we might have had just a teeny bit to do with your development and becoming the person that you are.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you all.
As we-
Y'all you have a good evening.
Thank you, thank you.
As we continue, and Mr. Lofton, based on what you were asking, can the city help? We welcome help from the city. We also, on Saturday, there is a meeting. It's going to be on the PA United, and it will be at Rock Island Missionary Baptist Church from 6 until 8, and that's Saturday, April 30th. And it's going to be sponsored by Judge Gillum and Pastor Chapman, and the other pastor, so the H, Domingo, Hopkins and Domingo, and they're in our schools. It's called Project Life Changers, and they really speak directly to our young men. And some of the pastors have had very, very difficult lives as they were coming up, so they speak from the heart. So it's not anyone that's coming in groomed and coming from a textbook type scenario. They're coming from real life situations. And recently, they've enlisted the services of some of our pastors that are females. Sister Howard will be there. Sister Howard, wait a minute, I'm just at a loss right now, but I mean Sister Howard and the Pastor Milo, and then Janice Milo, and oh gosh, I'll think of it later. But we have 3 of them that have started, and they're going to continue, because I tell you this, and I've said it today, our young ladies, now we deal with our boys, but our young ladies need some help. They need a lot of help, because some of them are really, really challenging. And so they definitely need help. And today we also had the opportunity, some of us, we toured the Harlem's Children's Zone virtually, and that's out of New York, and I'm sure you've seen it on 60 Minutes. Canada started that program. And it's just amazing how people from the community are the ones that are running that facility. And it's not anybody, they just said, come help us. There are people who really were gang members, whose parents were in jail, who've lost their parents. But it's going to take people like that in this community that really are having a rough time. However, they want better for their children. And we need to just find those individuals. I'm not sure who they are or where they are, but I have hope that there are some individuals out there that are not where they want to be in life. However, they want better for their children. And they can not only help their children, but their friends, the friends of their children. So we'll see how that goes about. So we'll be there Saturday. Yes.
Mr. Lofton asked about the city and if there's any resources. I recently heard, well, recently as of last night, I heard on the news where the city is considering the times curfew.
Yes.
Now,
we've talked about that.
if that curfew is to pass, would that, okay, in other words, a 16-year-old has to be off the street, say, by 9 o'clock. Would that help with trying to find some of our students and getting them back, because they've got to be off the street by 9 or?
Yeah, I think they're trying to do the 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay,
the 10, okay.
I'm gonna laugh when you said some of you may not, because you're too young, but there was something several years ago in Port Taylor. There was something when we were coming up, and at 10 o'clock, it would say, "It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?" You know, and parents knew where their children were at 10 o'clock. Yeah.
Channel 4, Channel 4.
Exactly, exactly.
Cowboy.
Yes,
Cowboy Toy,
exactly.
yeah.
But parents knew where their children
Yeah,
were,
yeah.
and if your child was at my house, we insist that you call your mother to let her know where you are.
Right.
You know, so we need to get back to some of those.
I'll be home by the time the
Yes,
street light comes on.
exactly. So
Yeah.
we're hoping to do some things, but I'm telling you, it's going to take the school system, it's going to take the community, and it's going to take parents that begin to trust us and understand that we have their child's best interests at heart. We are not in opposition to the home. We want to work with the home because we will say, I say this all the time, we deal with 8,000 children. Now, if parents would deal with their children in their household, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that they have, and send them to school ready to learn, then when they all come together, we'd be able to do something. But I mean, I think some parents expect us to do it all, and we can't. We can't do it all. We need help from parents in this community. So as we move forward, that's what we're going to try to do.
I wanted to render just a suggestion I just thought about. When we do get these students back and they do graduate, I think it would really be great if we can probably create a sub-program under what you already have, and have them come back and mentor. I know for a fact, just off of previous experience with going back into the schools and talking to some of the students, it really helps when you have a different messenger with the same message. We all could give that message, but when they see someone who they can relate to, who had a similar story, maybe I think it would be great if we can establish some type of mentoring program through those students who did come back, who were lost but who are now found and have their diplomas, to go back and help some of those students who are in need. And honestly and truly, we might end up finding a 2-for-1 by getting those students because they probably know where they are. But as we have already come to realize, most of them are working and most of them have different situations going on. So I think that'll be a good initiative to start if you can, if you already don't have plans to. Because I mean, it's exactly what Trustee Lofton and everyone has said. You know, we really have to get back to revitalizing our community because we can't just pinpoint and say, oh, it's this fault, it's this fault. It's all of our fault as a community as a whole. So once we hold ourselves accountable and we come back together, we'll be able to sit at the table together and eat and talk about where we were and where we are going.
Correct. Now, the three pastors that I was talking about, I thought about the third is Pastor Yvonne Howard, Yoshi Alexander, and Janice Marlowe. So those are three heavy hitters. So if they can't get through to our girls, nobody can. Nobody can, because they really are dynamic women, and they're models in our community. So, and that's what our girls need to see, models for what they could become. And I think those three ladies do not have a problem with voicing what is right and what is wrong. So, next on the agenda, now we're moving in 2019, we came before you to talk about rezoning, and now we're ready to rezone after 2 years of COVID. So I'm going to ask Mr. Jackson to come forward and talk about the process of rezoning and how we're going to rezone and
I have a bunch of folks cussing.
yes.
Good afternoon.
Do that.
Okay, as Dr. Porter said, I came to talk about the zoning and rezoning and modifying the school zones for the school district, for the different schools. To start off, as a community grows or shrink, they may require relocation of students when new schools are built and existing schools are closed. To address these changes and producing an equitable distribution of students among different schools, school districts should consider redrawing neighborhood school district boundaries. And as we've been talking about how our numbers have been going up and down, this is a good time we could be looking at where the students are in the different populated areas of Port Arthur and where the students are located to try to do as we're talking about here, which the benefits would be we can relieve our overcrowding in some schools, reduce class sizes, and improve our student to teacher ratios. The proximity keeps students that are geographically close to their assigned school and keep neighborhoods together. So that's the neighborhood school concept. Safety, allow camps to house students safely and provide adequate services to all students. And growth, allow for future growth. Those are the different benefits that we would get out of rezoning. And then the first step we did was we developed zone scenarios considering the following to determine if the rezoning is beneficial to the district, which is the things I just named, balancing the enrollment, keeping the neighborhoods together, safety, and growth. So we worked with a company and we have our district boundary maps and our school boundaries, and where we go through and we look at the different, the current zone, and we looked at the, adjusting the zones to see what the population would be with the students if we make these certain changes. For example, here, this is our current school zone for our elementary campuses. And these are the numbers that we had about 2 weeks ago. And you can see we have a couple of schools that had over 700 kids. And we got, a school, and most of the schools are pretty close on the other ones. But then we took an example here of a change in the zone. And if you look at it, we made some changes to some of the different areas that were a little bit more crowded than others. And we come up with more of a balanced number of students at the campuses. Yes, some campuses may have went up, but then we had some of the ones that was really overcrowded with the 700 kids have went down. So it helps even out and balance the students on each campus. We look at our elementary campuses, our middle school campuses, and we see that, Jefferson had 889 and Lincoln 738. This was the zones that the current middle school looked like, which was, as you can tell, was right up 9th Avenue there. And then when we go to trying to rezone, just making a little change up there in the northern part of the city where Jimmy Johnson is on 9th Avenue. We just made that little change to show that it can make that big of a difference where you see now Lincoln has 817 kids and Jefferson has 794. So it's just doing these different scenarios, modifying the zones, trying to figure out what fits best for Port Arthur ISD. And of course the high school, it's the whole city boundary is our high school boundary, so we didn't have to do anything with the high school boundaries. So there was no changes there. Okay, so what's next? So we want to provide this information with the different scenarios to our executive team so they can review it. And then we'll provide it to our principals to review and give us any feedback they have. And then we're going to publish a school locator on the website so parents can actually put in their addresses and see what schools their children would go to if there's a change in their areas. And then the superintendent's going to publish a news article that talks about and informing the public. And we'll provide an online question site so people can go in and ask questions, and we'll respond to the questions and post the questions so they can have their input on any questions that they have about the changing. And then we'll begin our online registration so that the parents to know that this is where my student is going to go now. I need to register for that particular campus instead of the campus they may have been in the year before. All right, so this is an example of what the parents would have to do with the school locator. Because we have one on our website currently, but it would change because we're using a different company now. But it's still the same concept. They would put in their address, and it would show them on which school. So if you, boom, in the top right there where it says enter your address here, you put in the address, You can just use this one, it'll give you 4801. There it is, you can select it. And then click here. So then you see on your left-hand side, it tells you, like, at that address, if you lived, if this was a house, student would attend Staff Sergeant Lucian Adams or Lincoln Middle School, depending on their grade level. So this would be a key component for them to know where the student would attend next year when the changes happen.
And this is on the website? No.
This particular one is not, but we do have another version of one that we were using, but we're going to be changing this to this one because we're changing the companies.
Okay.
So, like I said, parents will have a chance to change it up and look and see where their student would attend when we look at the different zones and make the changes. Okay? Is there any questions?
Trustees, let's hold on a second. I'm going to let you finish your presentation, and then we'll hold questions till the end of the presentation. Can we do that?
I'm done.
All right.
I'm done, President Barty.
Okay. Ms. Ambrose.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Jackson, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a moment. I have a hardship. I can't get my child to the other school that you now say my child has to go to. What are you going to do for me?
Well, our rule right now, and it's going to continue to be the same, a student has to apply for the campus in the place they're zoned. And I believe it's 2 weeks into the school year, then they can apply for a hardship. And then it goes to the federal funding office with Dr. Getwood's office, and they will look at the reasoning for the hardship. And if they approve it, then the student can go to the new school. Now, as we know, if a student has that hardship, we don't normally provide transportation for them.
That was my next question. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. With looking at the maps on here, I know for a fact, and I know personally, that the whole Port Arthur area is not being utilized for Port Arthur. The way the lines have been cut up and adjusted, just right here around the corner by Ben Tree, P&G drop kids off on one side of the street, the other side of the street is Memorial. So how can we, or is it something that we can do, or is it something as far as the lines being drawn, can change that? I would like to see, if you're in Port Arthur, if the city of Port Arthur, you attend Port Arthur schools.
I would like to see the same. But I'm not sure why or when the lines were zoned that way for Port Arthur ISD, but I could definitely look into it and try to find out some answers why it's zoned the way it's zoned. Because like you say, people can live right across the street going to P&G because that's their zone, and Port Arthur's across the street from it, within the Port Arthur city limits.
And I know that because, you know, right now me and my wife are house shopping, and I mean, right there in Port Arthur, in the city of Port Arthur, but going into that cul-de-sac, it says P&G. And then once you put up the address, it's P&G high school that you have to go to, or middle school, or whatever the case may be. So that's what more made me think about that when I said for the rezoning part of it. Why has it been rezoned like that? Why have the lines been cut into Port Arthur if you're part of Neyland and P&G?
Right, we have that issue with Port Neches and with Nederland.
Right.
You're up there by the mall on
right.
over there by Blackberry, it's that way also.
Yep.
But I can look into that to find out about that information.
Well, thank you. Any more questions from any trustees? Ms. Ambrose has 2 more questions.
Just one more question. What jurisdiction does the city have in this? Because now they're responsible for drawing the lines.
And that's the information I need to find out. I'm not sure if it's the city. It may be more of the county, or is it the city?
No, that's the city.
It's the city?
That's the city.
I'll look in there, because I did have to get information from the city when we were looking at the zoning. That's how we got our outer boundaries from the city.
And the reason I know for certainty that it's the city, because last year during our election time, there were some Port Arthurans that came to vote, but they were not allowed to vote in Port Arthur because they were in Port Neches School District, but they actually lived in the city of Port Arthur, so. Right. Well, that was an old area, though. That wasn't necessarily a part of this, Robert Reed, if that's what you're saying.
It's in a different.
In Nederland school
Yeah,
zone,
right.
okay, okay.
Trying to figure out how to get that corrected, it's part of the act of Congress.
Yeah.
Right.
Because people that live in that area don't want to support what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah,
Their
that's true.
children don't want to support the school district, so we got to keep that real.
Like I said, I'll look into it to see if there's anything that can be done.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Mr.
Jackson.
Jackson. We didn't mean to turn you into Malcolm X or Martin Luther King on this, but thank you for looking into it.
That concludes our staff reports.
Thank you, Dr. Portery. Minutes. Consider and if appropriate approve minutes of the March 24th, 2020 board meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor by Secretary Brown. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Getwood. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. The following items, which are of a routine and recurring nature, has been designated consent agenda items by the board president per policy BE local. All of the items on the consent agenda will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by a trustee, in which the event the item or items will be withdrawn immediately from individual consideration in its normal sequence. After the items not requiring separate discussion has been acted upon. Trustees, I'm going to give you a minute to look through the consent agenda. I'd like to get a motion on.
Mr. President, I would like to pull consent agenda item number 6.
Number 6. I'd like to get a motion on consent agenda items number 1 through 5, 7 through 12, 13 through 18. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion on the floor by Trustee Ambrose, second by Secretary Brown. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Getwood?
Dr. Portery, could you please just elaborate just a little bit more on consent agenda item number 6?
Great. Well, thank you, Trustee Getwood. We're always excited to try and do whatever we can do to make education and the delivery of instruction easier for our teachers and for our students as well. So we are asking for your approval for the 65-inch interactive flat panels for secondary classroom rooms district-wide for visual technologies. I will ask Mr. Jackson to come and give us the technical version of what they do. If you recall, there was a presentation by Mr. Dagree a couple of board meetings ago. And he brought the panel here for you all to see. So if Mr. Jackson could just go through the technical definition of what they will be seeing.
Yes, sir. The inactive panels, or what they say, they're inactive panels. They look like televisions, but they're interactive. You can touch them, you can do videos on them, you can write over them. So it's another method for the teachers to actually instruct their children. And also, we also have they also turn into what they call a table mode. They turn over and lay flat and go down low enough to where they section off into 4 sections, and children can do individualized instruction on those interactive TVs or flat panels.
And as we were talking earlier with Mr. Jackson, we are ready, technology is ready. You are familiar, there is a shortage of teachers, and we have to figure out a way to get the better teacher to deliver the instruction to our children. So those interactive panels will be able to help us to have distance learning within the district. You have approved us to have distance learning with Spanish classes through Region 5, and now we have to take advantage of our own. So those interactive panels will be able to help us do that. So we're looking forward to working with IT, working with our schools in order to do that for the 22-23 school year. All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I'd like to get a motion on the floor for consent agenda item number 6.
Motion.
I have a motion by Trustee Getwood, second by Vice President Lofton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we go to personnel. At the beginning of the open meeting, we went over the grievance. Ms. Ambrose, I'm going to call for the grievance again. I'm going to have you read out the motion.
Mr. President, I move that the board uphold the Level 3 decision of the superintendent of schools in the grievance of employee Donald Boulay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consider and if appropriate approve employment of teachers.
Mr. President, I move that we employ teachers as presented.
We have a motion on the floor by Secretary Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consider and if appropriate, rescind the non-renewal of term contract employees. Oh, did I skip on this one? Mine, I don't want it. Hold on, 1 second. Oh, okay, I see it. I got you. Okay. We're going with the bilingual? Yes. Gotcha. Consider and if appropriate approve employment of bilingual English as a second language ESL curriculum supervisor.
Mr. President, I move that the employment of ESL curriculum supervisor.
And what we're asking is that for your approval for Dr. Azina Wan to hold that position.
We have a motion on the floor, and we're going to have, can I get a second?
Second.
Have a motion on the floor and second by Trustee Getwood. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consider and if appropriate, approve, rescind the non-renewal of the term. No, that's not. Yes, I'm on it right now. Yeah. Consider and if appropriate, approve, rescind the non-renewal of the term contract employee Cynthia Williams. So moved.
No, Mr. President, I move that the board rescind the non-renewal of term contract employee Cynthia Williams.
I have a motion on the floor by Secretary Brown, a second by Vice President Lofton. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Consider and if appropriate, approve, rescind board actions renewing the employment contract of employee George Wright Pregene.
Mr. President, I move that the board rescind board action renewing the employment contract of employee George Wyatt Pregene.
I have a motion on the floor. I have a second by Secretary Brown. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Consider and if appropriate approve, accept non-renewal of probationary contracts.
Mr. President, I move the board non-renew the probationary contract as presented in executive session.
I have a motion on the floor by Trustee Getwood. I have a second by Secretary Brown. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Consider and if appropriate, propose non-renewal of term contracts.
Mr. President, I move the board propose non-renewal of term contracts as presented in executive session.
I have a motion on the floor by Trustee Getwood.
Second.
Second by Trustee Ambrose. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Consider and if appropriate, rescind non-renewal of probationary contract for Lacey Daniels.
Mr. President, I move the board rescind the non-renewal of probationary contract for Lacey Daniels.
I have a motion on the floor by Trustee Getwood.
Second.
Second by Trustee Ambrose. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Information, Dr. Porter.
Average daily enrollment, 7,995. Average daily attendance, 91.17%.
Thank you, Dr. Porter. I'd like to call adjournment of the meeting at 7:28 p.m. I have a motion by Trustee Ambrose, second by Trustee Getwood. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Great. Next you'll be smoking cigars.